Hi, I'm Dominic, and I'm doing my Humanities project on Bob Marley, and this is the presentation for it. So, the culture and era that he represents is Jamaican culture, because that's his home country and where he grew up, as well as the Rastafarian religion/slash philosophy, and the time period that he was kind of at his peak was during the 1960s to 1981, which is when he passed away. This is an era when apartheid was happening in Africa, as well as the Jim Crow era in the United States. So his early life, he grew up with his mother because his father died of a stroke, I believe. And eventually his mother married his childhood best friend's dad, and eventually they started a singing group, which came to be known as the Wailers. They didn't know how to play any instruments. They were into music, so they got another person and started making music, and they actually got pretty popular pretty quickly. Um, they found a record label that they started making music for, and they started selling a lot of copies of their songs. This was all happening up until 1960, which was when their band actually disbanded, but they were active for a couple years. After 1960, Bob Marley kind of, the whole Wailers group went on their own, but Bob Marley kind of reinvented the group with new members and started performing as Bob Marley and the Wailers as his backup. Um, so here's some of the accomplishments that he did. In 1976, during the Smile Jamaica concert, which was organized by a prime minister in Jamaica as basically a free concert that was set up so that it could ease tensions between the two political groups at the time. Um, a few days before the concert, there was actually an assassination attempt on Bob Marley's life, and his manager got severely injured, as well as his wife, and he got shot at. He was slightly injured, but 2 days later, he still went on stage and performed at the Smile Jamaica concert because he knew how important it was to unite the political parties, and that was something that he was really passionate about. Another thing I noted was his Survival album, which was one of his more politically empowered albums, which talked on heavy topics of government oppression and governmental abuse of power. A specific song is Ambush in the Night, which I noted, and some of the lyrics are really empowering. He talks about how he keeps on surviving through the ambush planned by society, and that was really empowering to a lot of people listening. And that's kind of how the entire album was, um, empowering music with politically charged lyrics throughout the entire album. Another thing that he was really well known for was spreading the word of Rasta philosophy on a global scale. Um, Rastafarian philosophy was kind of based in Jamaica when it was made by a philosopher in Jamaica. So through his music, he was able to reach a global audience, preaching his philosophy, um, and the philosophy spread throughout all of the countries that listen to him. And I think now there's a million supporters of Rastafarian religion. So that's his impact on that. The legacy that he left behind was his strong commitments to peace and justice socially through his songs, which was about his community pretty much, peace and justice for them, because again, with the how his songs were about government abuse of power and the oppression that his people faced. It was his strong commitments that kind of gave people hope through his music and recognition throughout the world of the things that were happening to his people and the oppression that they faced. And his music was inspiring people to rise above that despite the shortcomings. Another part of his legacy was his iconic performances that brought people together. I wasn't able to note it in my essay at all, or on my essay, but he actually had another performance where he literally brought together two kind of like gang bosses and united the people through his performance on stage. But his performances brought people together, and above all, he created great, impactful music that will continue to live on and inspire people. And that's his legacy. For my creation, I kind of did a journalist style interview with three different people. My dad, who is Jamaican, as well as he's very religious. So I asked him about his experience with Bob Marley and reggae, and basically how it impacted him. And that was obviously different than how it impacted my mom, who also listens to Bob Marley and reggae, because she's not Jamaican and she's not religious. And then I asked my friend, who had no previous experience listening to Bob Marley or reggae. So I asked her to listen to an album, and then I kind of interviewed her and wrote down her thoughts about his music. And then I asked all of them the same questions, but I asked how they thought of Bob Marley after hearing his music, or just my mom and dad's experience with Bob Marley through how they grew up. So I thought that would be a good way to show how he's impacted real life people through his music, rather than just the people that I said he impacted in my essay. Um, and it was interesting hearing different people's opinions on him, but they were all positive things, which just shows his legacy was a positive. He was just a positive force. And then that wraps up my presentation. Thank you.